Welcome back to another edition of the Saturday to Sunday Football Podcast. I am Paul Perdichizzi, and thank you for joining me. As always, it is NFL Combine Week. Recording this Sunday night. The Combine, the on-field drills start on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Saturday, Sunday, we'll be providing wire-to-wire, wall-to-wall coverage, live tweeting, every single day of the NFL Combine, live tweeting every 40 time, my thoughts on every single prospect, offense, defense, O-line, across the board, not just the offensive skill players, their strengths, how they win, draft projections, recap podcasts every single night, live on YouTube, and obviously the audio feed that on the podcast feed as well. We will be covering it the entire 4 days of the NFL Combine like we do every year. This is the next phase of the pre-draft process. All-star games are in the books. Combine coming up. After that, we turn our attention to pro days. And then before you know it, it'll be April and it'll be NFL draft month. The Combine, you will hear some people knock it. Some people say it doesn't matter at all. You might have some people say it matters a lot. We have always, here at Saturday, Sunday, been down the middle. The Combine is a part of the process. And forever, as long as I am doing this, I will always say it is the SATs of the NFL draft. The reason why the SATs, the ACTs exist in the education system is to compare the kid from the East Coast to the West Coast, compare the kid from New York to Texas to California to Wyoming and every other place in the country, right? Because when you apply to colleges, everyone's got coming from a different area, different background, different teachers, different teaching styles. But the SAT puts everybody on a level playing field, right? That's what the NFL Combine is why it is so important. We also understand that the most important things, the two most important things that happen at the NFL Combine, we are not privy to, and we never know. One, the medicals. It's the reason why the Combine was created, to get everybody in one location to be evaluated by NFL personnel people. Two, it's the interviews. So the medicals and the interviews are the two most important things from the Combine. But the stuff that we get to watch, the testing and the measurements we find out. Measurements are very important because if they haven't been at the Senior Bowl or the Shrine Bowl or one of the bowls, we don't have exact measurements on these guys. And every year we come to be surprised by some people in terms of height, weight, length, all that different stuff. So the measurements have a lot of importance, especially if we don't have verified measurements, if they're not a prospect that has played in one of the All-Star games. Two, the athletic testing is important because, again, it puts people on a level playing field. It sends you back to the tape. We have a baseline of whether or not we think a player is athletic, going to run a fast 40, going to show good testing in the change of direction stuff, the shuttle, the recone. We don't double count. If a guy tests out really well, who we expect to test out really well, that's checking a box. We already knew that box should be checked. Where the Combine has a lot of value is when somebody tests out very differently than what we saw on film, because it sends us back to the film. Maybe we didn't watch enough games. Maybe we didn't watch the right games. Maybe we need to watch more to see if maybe we missed that aspect of the game where he does have more juice, more athleticism, more change of direction skills. Second, it really helps sort between tiers. This class, especially the running back class, after the first 6 or 7 running backs, you can make a case from like 7 to 15, 7 to 17. You can rank them in almost every which way, and you can make a really strong argument. It's almost one giant tier. And if it's not one giant tier, maybe you split it up to 2 big tiers. The athletic testing and then the on-field drills allows us to kind of help sort in between tiers. And for certain positions like tight ends, athleticism means a lot. So if you have multiple guys with similar grades in a similar tier, the athletic testing numbers could help you sort between that tier. Maybe it helps somebody jump from the top of one tier to the bottom of another tier, small things like that. So it sends us back to the film. It puts everybody on a level playing field. It helps us sort between tiers. And then the on-field drills have a lot of importance because you see guys doing it one after another. It's nice to see the quarterback throw one after another. It's so easy to see the difference in arm talents when you see one prospect go and then you see another one and they have a drastic difference in arm talent that maybe you didn't see as obvious when watching film, but when you're seeing them throw the football one after another, it comes out, right? When Josh Allen was there lighting it up, and then the guy after, you could see just how much of a stark difference there was between Josh Allen and other players at the combine. So the on-field drills are really important. You could see certain things. On the defensive side, you could see right away if a guy's a cornerback or maybe should be thinking about a move to safety, the transition, the change of direction stuff, the way they, swivel their hips. You could see it. For the running backs, you could see them run pass routes. Maybe that wasn't an aspect of their game in college just because the team didn't need that of them or didn't ask them of that. But all of a sudden, a guy who had 7 catches last year, maybe it's not that he doesn't have pass receiving skills. Maybe he just wasn't asked to do it. And you start to see that from the combine. Wow, this guy maybe runs routes a little bit better than we thought. He's showing better hands than we thought. So the on-field drills have a lot of value in its own right. So the on-field drills have value. The testing has value. The measurements have value. And that's all after the medical evals and the interviews have the most value. So there is 5 different components that all have a lot of value at the NFL Combine. And it puts everybody in the same place, the SEC teams, Alabama, the LSUs, and then the Division I AA programs. And it's the only place that you'll see that on all the relevant draft prospects for the 2025 NFL Draft. Also, it's kind of in the news today that it came out that Shedeur Sanders wasn't going to partake in anything at the combine except the interviews, and then he's going to throw his pro day. Yeah, would I have liked to see him throw? Sure. Am I surprised? Absolutely not. A prospect like Shedeur Sanders has nothing to gain at the combine and everything to lose. And if I was selfishly, I wanted to see it, but if I was in the ear of any one of these prospects, I would not do anything at the combine if I thought it was going to hurt my draft stock. If I thought I was going to run a bad 40 time, I wouldn't run it. I'd maybe keep practicing and do it at my pro day. But if you're a prospect that some type of testing is going to really hinder you or some type of on-field drill might hinder your draft stock, I'm not going to do it. So Shedeur Sanders, yeah, people want to see him throw. Nothing Shedeur Sanders is going to do is going to change his arm talent from average to good or above average to very good. It's not going to happen. Maybe over time, he'll just naturally continue to get a little stronger. Like somebody like Tom Brady, arm talent got better as he got into the NFL, into an NFL weight, training and weight program, and he just got a little bit better. Is that possible for college quarterbacks? Sure. It's not the expectation. So for Shedeur Sanders, he has 4 years of starting quarterback film. He's going to throw at his pro day. I don't think him not partaking here moves the needle at all in terms of somebody's evaluation on Shedeur Sanders. If you like him, you like him. If you don't like him, you don't like him. I think it's a bigger story because who it is, and he's such a polarizing prospect, and people seem to be all over the map. For all of a sudden, for him, his size and his arm talent is this major deterrent. But 2 years ago, most people had Bryce Young as their QB1 in that class. I'm baffled by how much people are honing in on the size and the arm talent. What did Bryce Young have except maybe anticipatory throwing better than Shedeur Sanders? And he had the time to do that because of the Alabama team he was surrounded by, the offensive line, the defense backing him up, the run game, the playmakers. It just seems like because Shedeur is such a polarizing prospect, we are talking about it much more than we have before. And there's going to be a lot of guys. There's going to be a lot of guys that you're going to tune in the day of the combine, expecting them to run or test, who are going to not do it. and they're just going to do it at their pro day. Because if you have a really good grade and the combine might only hurt your draft stock, you're probably going to wait till you're on your own footing at your pro day, a comfortable setting, and do it there. It's just the way it is. And I think we're going to see more and more prospects over time hold out until their pro days. Now, what's interesting about this class is we don't have a lot of elite guys that are locked into the top, the draft. We have a lot of guys vying for like 15 to 30, 15 to 40, the second round and the third round. A lot of movement can still happen. So because of that, you might see more guys do things to try to help their draft stock, especially like the running backs, try to sort out the stuff. I know I've said it. I'm really interested to see if Harold Fannin runs. And we'll get to him in a second. But he's a perfect example of a guy that I don't think he's going to test out that well. He's got some straight line linear speed, maybe. But right now, he's a top 100 player on most people's boards. He's probably going to go in round 3. I think that's where he deserves to go. But if he runs really poorly, then that production that's elite, there's going to be a lot of people questioning that production and talking much more about it, the level of competition he played at. And there's going to be questions about him transitioning to the NFL game if he ran slowly, because he's a pass catching tight end only. His body is not. He can adequately block in space. This is not a guy who's going to block in line with any type of success against edge rushers at the next level. So I understand when a guy doesn't do it at the combine. I hate it. I want to see everybody do it. And guys that I think might not test well, I hope they prove me so wrong and they do unbelievable, right? Like I would like nothing more than Harold Fannin to go out there and run a 4.55. Do I think it's going to happen? No. That's not what I saw on film, but I hope he does. Because if he runs a 4.55 with that elite production, then we're talking about a guy who maybe should go round 2 and hopefully can be a prolific pass catching tight end at the next level. I think he's going to be a good player at the next level. I don't think his production necessarily matches up with what we're going to see in terms of the physical traits, in terms of transitioning that makes him, I don't think he's Evan Ingram as a prospect. I don't even think he's in the same tier as Elijah Arroyo and Mason Taylor. I think he's clearly in the third tier of tight ends with Gunnar Helm and that group. But we'll see. So there's the kind of general rundown about the combine, why it's important, my thoughts on if prospects choose not to perform, what I think about it. If we take this time to actual talking about some things I'm looking forward to seeing, let's talk about the quarterback position. I kind of mentioned Shady Sanders. I mean, I'm kind of interested to kind of see some guys. I'm interested to see, does everybody else grow? And do we see from the on-field drills and then from what we hear from the buzz, there's always a lot of buzz down there. Do we get some more clarity on, I'll say QB 4, 5, 6? I think at this point now, Jackson Dart, even though he's not my QB 3, he's my QB 4. I think Jackson Dart is probably locked in as the QB 3. I think would have to be a really poor rest of the draft season to see him not. I think he's on that round 1, round 2 border right now after Ward and Sanders. So I'm going to be interested to see how he grows and the continued buzz about Jackson Dart. But I think after that, does Quinn Ewers do everything? And is there buzz around him at all? Kyle McCord, Will Howard. And then the guy I talked about on the last episode, who's generating a lot of buzz, is Tyler Shook. Greg Cosell, somebody who I consider one of the GOAT in terms of draft evaluators. He has him as his number 2 quarterback in this class. I just talked about last episode that I think you can make the case he's 3. I had him at 5 because I still have Jalen Milroe there at 3. But I think Tyler Shook, his game is very comparable to Jackson Dart if you take out the age factor. So someone emerged from that group to help sort out that QB 4 through QB 6 range. How fast is Jalen Milroe? Does his elite athleticism, which I think he's going to have, make people rethink the lack of passing issues that he has and the development that's still needed there. But if he goes out there and runs this crazy time for a quarterback, I think that's what keeps him in the second round mix, and not round 2, round 3, and on that day 2 radar. So I'm excited to see Jalen Milroe and how he performs there at the combine. I think he'll show off a good arm. I think he'll run really fast and test out unbelievable. Is the accuracy and ball placement all over the place? That we'd like to see it cleaned up a little bit. We didn't see that at the Senior Bowl. We didn't see it the second half of the year. And then we know Shea DuSanders is not doing anything. Does Cam Ward decide to take advantage of that and maybe solidify his status to some as declared QB1 in this class? And then how does things look with Tyler Shough, Kyle McCord, Will Howard, and those guys to kind of, and Quinn Ewers to kind of help sort that tier of quarterbacks after what I think is the top 4, top 5. What about that next tier? How does it look post-combine? Does anybody emerge from that group to maybe the head of that tier? That's what I'm looking for at the quarterbacks. At the running backs, it is almost too much to talk about the running backs, but for me, I haven't finalized tiers and rankings. But for me, I'm excited to kind of see some of these guys perform, because the way I look at this, I think there's obviously Ashton Genty in his own tier, but I think people are going to be surprised that my next tier has 4 names in it. And one of them is not maybe who you might expect. It's Omarion Hampton, it's Caleb Johnson, it's Travion Henderson, but it's Dylan Sampson. And I think he's a guy who I'm blown away is not generating more attention. I think he's easily a top 5 back in this class. If somebody wants to make a case that he's as good or better than Omarion Hampton, Caleb Johnson, or Travion Henderson, I think you can make a strong argument, and I am not going to push back much. Because to me, they all deserve to go round 2. I don't know if we'll have 4 round 2 prospects. Maybe another one sneaks in round 1. But that's how high I'm on Dylan Sampson. I think after the combine, you're going to start seeing more people have him in their top 5s. I have him in a tier above Quinshon Judkins, who I don't think this is a great setting for. I don't think he's going to run a fast 40. I don't think he's going to have great jumps. So I'll be interested. Does Quinshon Judkins do everything here at the combine? But for me, does Dylan Sampson take that next leap and all of a sudden kind of use the combine as his springboard, right? He wasn't in any of the all-star games because of, not a senior and not a graduating junior. So Sampson gets his opportunity now. I don't think you're seeing him in a lot of people's top 5 running backs. I think that's where he warrants going. And I think I'm excited to see him perform down there with so many other guys, but he's one of them. Then I kind of mentioned Quinshon Judkins. After that, Jordan James, R.G. Harvey, Devin Neal, Cam Scatterbo, Damian Martinez, Ollie Gordon, Jaquavius Marks, Trevor Etienne, all guys from my 7 through 14 right now. Again, you want to mix and match them in any order possible, you could, and really make a strong case for this. I think R.J. Harvey's going to test out really well. I think Devin Neal's going to test out really well. I don't think Jordan James is going to be a great tester. I don't think that's his forte. I think he's a really good running back, very Bucky Irving-like, but maybe surprises, and he's got a little bit more athleticism than I thought. But I think R.J. Harvey and Devin Neal from that group are going to test out really good. I think Trevor Etienne's going to test out really good. How do the big guys look? Scatterbo, Martinez, Gordon. Is there a big difference in their athleticism? Because on film, I think they're pretty similar. But this is what the combine is great for. I have them in my ranks right now at 10, 11, and 12, and I purposely have them stacked there because they're very similar in play style. Scatterbo's the best receiver of the group, which is why I have him ahead. But is there a drastic difference in athleticism? Because that might help kind of rearrange those 3 big backs in this draft class. But then here's the guy. If you want me to pick one name who's going to be the biggest combine winner from the running back position, I talked about him in the last episode. It's Bashal Tuden out of Virginia Tech. He's going to run in the 4.3s at a weight that you don't see that kind of speed. He's going to jump great. He's going to run super fast. And I think he's going to be one of those guys that didn't have a lot of receiving production in college, but I think he might show off better at that. I think people, if you don't have Basho Tuda in your top 15 running back rankings before the combine, I think you are after the combine, and you could even make the case top 10, top 12. But I think top 15, with how great of a class this is, I think you're going to see Basho Tuda in a lot more people's top 15s after the NFL combine. Excited to see LaQuint Allen in the on-field work. I think he'll look really good in terms of his pass catching abilities. He's one of the best pass catchers in his class. But right there with him, Brashard Smith out of SMU, the former wide receiver, he's going to test out well, and he's going to look great in drills. And then I just really got a chance to really dig into Jaden Blue. He's another guy, really good receiving back, got juice. He's going to test out well here, Jaden Blue. He's going to look good in the on-field pass drills, and he's going to test out really well too. He could be a winner down there. So those are the guys that I'm most excited from the running back position. Excited to see if the bigger, more physical guys, does anybody separate from the group in terms of their athleticism? And then some of these other guys help sort things out between that massive tier. And like I said, Basho Tuda is the guy who I think is going to be one of the winners of the NFL Combine, and we're going to be seeing his stock rise a lot after that. Let's take this to the tight ends first. I think the tight ends are going to be interesting. Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren, the two guys who I think are going to be top 20 picks in the NFL draft. Colston Loveland's going to test out as a very good to great level athlete. And Warren, for the size adjusted stuff, he's going to test out as a really, really impressive athlete as well. So I think those guys are just going to be checking boxes here. I think they're both going to test out really well. Obviously, Warren's, got additional weight to that frame of his. But I think both of them are going to test out and just check this box off in the process here, if they even choose to do it. Those are two guys that I'm talking about. Their film speaks for their athleticism. We know they're going to test out well. We know they're athletic. We've seen Tyler Warren attack the seam. We've seen him be wildcat quarterback and make moves. We've seen Colston Loveland for the last 2 years be a major weapon in the pass game there for Michigan. Do they even perform at the combine, or do they just wait for the pro days? We'll see. I'm excited to see Elijah Arroyo, the fast rising tight end who could push his way to late round 1, if not top 10, top 15 picks around 2, is I think where he'll come off the board. You're seeing him in a lot of people's top 50s, and I think it's well warranted. Mason Taylor, right there. I think he's going to test out. I don't think Mason Taylor, people are talking about him, but I think people are downplaying his potential and his athletic upside and NFL upside based on the fact that he didn't put up gaudy numbers in college. Well, the year before they had Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors. That was good. Those are guys that are going to dictate things. And then this year, they still had good receivers putting up production, and not every offense just opens it up for the tight end to have this massive production. I think Mason Taylor has the size, the frame, the athleticism. He's better as a move F tight end, but he's got the size and the frame to hold up in line, especially if you could add in a couple, maybe 5 additional pounds of muscle. But I think he's going to test that really well here. I think the combine could help Arroyo and Mason Taylor kind of really separate themselves from the Gunnar Helms and the Harold Fannons. I think Arroyo and Mason Taylor could do that here at the combine. I mentioned before, Harold Fannon's one of the most intriguing prospects. And if he can run a 4.6 to 4.65 at the bare minimum, he should not be running at the NFL Combine, and he should be shutting it down. So I think 4.60. If he can't run a 4.60, I don't think I know at 230 something, I don't think I would be running. I don't think it can only hurt his stock. So I'm interested to see if he runs. And then if he runs, he might surprise me a little bit with his straight line speed. I don't think he should do the pre-cone and the shuttle. I don't see a guy who's got great change of direction and footwork and natural fluid movement skills. So we'll see what he does down there. I think Gunnar Helm will test out as a pretty quality athlete. I'm kind of excited for some of these other guys, Jake Bridenstool, Oronde Gadsden. Both of those guys are Guys who are more in the pass catching mold of guys. Could even throw into that group, guys like Brand Keith and Bryson Nesbitt, but those are more guys who are late rounders. I think the Brinstool could be a round 3, round 4 guy. Gatson could be like a round 5 guy. I'm interested to see how good they test out as athletes because that's their bread and butter. They got to, as a pass catcher who can't hold up much, they got to test out as pretty good athletes. I think Brinstool would. I'm on the fence about Gadsden. I think he's okay. I think he's a functional and average athlete. To me, I like the ball skills and the length. Does he test out a little bit better for the tight end position and maybe make him even more intriguing? And maybe he could be a real early day pre type guy. I think Thomas Fedoni, talked about him on the size adjusted stuff. I think he's going to test that well. So he's a guy who has got the size, got the athleticism. He could be a winner from down there as well and continue the pre-draft process. And then see if there's any surprises. I don't think we're going to see any true surprises, but there's a bunch of guys down here that maybe a guy like Joshua Simon out of South Carolina, maybe he surprises. Maybe one of the Alabama guys is, Alabama gets a lot of big time recruits that are, 4 or 5, 4-star guys from high school. Maybe one of them has better athleticism than we expect. So it'll be interesting to kind of see if anybody surprises athletically at the tight end position. And if we take this to the wide receiver group, I think that's probably the area that I'm most interested in terms of seeing because it's a, relatively speaking from past years, it's a somewhat down wide receiver group, especially if the NFL is mostly viewing Travis Hunter. I know he's performing with the DBs at the combine. I'm sure he's going to do wide receiver drills as well. But Hunter, to me, is the clear wide receiver 1 in this class. But if he's not a part of this group, I think you have a couple guys in the mix to be round 1, from Burden to Tet McMillan, Emeka Egbuka, and Matthew Golden. I think those are the 4 guys. And then how you want to classify Hunter as the 5th guy who would go in the first round. But then after that, day 2 and the way day 2 kind of shapes up from the wide receivers, I think it's very up in the air, right? I think Isaiah Bond's going to test out well. He's going to run fast. He had a down year at Texas, right? Golden became the guy, but I'm still in on Bond. I think Bond is going to be a guy that goes a lot higher than people expect because he's got a lot of traits that teams are looking for. I think Jalen Royals is going to test out well. I have him as my number 7th wide receiver right now. There's room to go down. Maybe he can go up one more spot for me. I don't see him going in the top 5, but maybe up to 6. But I think he's going to test out well. If he doesn't test out well, I think that's going to hurt him a little bit. Can Jalen Noel, I should say, keep it going from the pre-draft buzz that he generated at the Senior Bowl? Right now, he's my number 9 ranked wide receiver. I'm very interested to see these trio of guys. Trey Harris, Io Manor, and Jaden Higgins. Io Manor from Stanford, Higgins from Iowa State, Trey Harris from Ole Miss. I have questions about all 3 of them in terms of their speed. Like I talked about the running backs, right? Scatterbo, Ali Gordon, Damian Martinez. Could anybody separate amongst that trio? Can people separate? Now, I do have Trey Harris ahead of Io Manor and Higgins right now in my ranks. But can any of those guys show more athleticism and maybe ease some of my speed concerns or athleticism concerns from that trio of guys? I think that could be big for any of these guys in terms of how they perform and how they test. Savion Williams out of TCU, I think could be a guy that really freakish, size, weight, speed, athleticism. So excited to him. If I talked about before, Bashal Tuden is my guess in terms of the guy who generates the most buzz at the running back position and becomes a guy who's in people's top 15s. My wide receiver pick of the guy who I think you're going to see in more people's top 15s after this is Kyle Williams out of Washington State. He's my 15th wide receiver right now. I don't think he's in a lot of people's top 15s at the moment, but I think he warrants being there. I think he's going to test out unbelievably well, and he's going to be a big winner of the combine. Be interesting to kind of see how Xavier Restrepo does in terms of the speed. We know he's going to test out well in the change of direction stuff, but how does he look, his overall speed? And then some other guys who I'm excited to see. I think Ty Felton's going to help himself. He's one guy who I think we're going to see run really fast. I think in the running to be the fastest wide receiver at the combine is going to be Arian Smith. Guys from Georgia, we're talking elite speed, acceleration, and burst. We're talking in the 4.2s. Arian Smith's got a chance to be the fastest participant at the combine this year. Dante Thornton Jr. out of Tennessee. He's going to be a winner from the combine, I think. I think he's going to test out really well as a great athlete with big-time speed. So interested in him. I'm interested to kind of see Dominic Lovett out of Georgia. Good athleticism. He's got speed. I think he might test out better than the production we saw this year. Talked about Ty Felton. I think Daquan Felton out of Virginia Tech. He's going to test out as a very good athlete with big-time speed, acceleration, and burst. So these are some guys who just aren't getting a lot of attention right now, right? Ty Felton and Daquan Felton, Arian Smith out of Georgia. I think those guys all can be guys that see their stock rise a little bit. And Dominic Thornton out of Tennessee could see their stock rise over the combine weekend. But I do think Kyle Williams will be the winner from the wide receiver position and have a real chance to go top 100. As a surprise wide receiver that goes in the top 100, I think that's going to be Kyle Williams out of Washington State, who I expect to test out really well, look really good, explosive. Kyle Williams is my pick for the wide receivers to see their stock rise the most. Facial Tuden is my pick at the running back position. I don't think anyone's going to dramatically rise at the quarterback position, but Jalen Milroe is going to be the most impressive to help at least maybe calm the storm in his stock right now and lock him in somewhere to day 2. And I think Mason Taylor and Elijah Arroyo solidifying their status as the clear tier 2 after Warren and Loveland would be the tight ends. I don't think any one tight end would really surprise me. I think Taylor and Arroyo. Taylor maybe in particular, I don't know if people realize just how good of an athlete he is as well. I think he'll be the guy generating the most consistent buzz. But I don't think there's a tight end that's going to make a big jump up and really move up rankings significantly. Like I think you're going to see Tuden at the running back position and Kyle Williams at the wide receiver position. Once people realize how explosive they are, it's going to send them back to the film, and people are going to realize they have a lot more game to them, and they're a lot more explosive and with actual other traits as well at the forefront to be regarded in a much more positive light than maybe they currently are right now. So there it is, guys. 2025 NFL Combine preview. Today I focused just on the skill players, but understand live tweeting every single day, thoughts on every single player who is partaking in the combine. I've been doing work and researching and watching film endless amounts for the last couple of weeks, so I can give my thoughts on and around projection for every single person at the NFL Combine. Recap pods every single night on YouTube, and then the audio feed, obviously, the next morning, wherever you listen to podcasts, all of that. If you're enjoying the content, please get over to the website, S2S Football, fastest and easiest way to get there. Check out the Premium Notebook tab or Premium Content tab. And for $9.99, get the Premium Notebooks. You get access to our Rankings Notebook, our Scouting Notebook, and then in April, you get the Draft Projections Notebook. All the details about the 3 notebooks are there. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. If you've bought it in the past, but you haven't bought it this year, please consider purchasing it again. If you've never purchased it, but you've been a long-time listener or a new listener, please consider purchasing it. Well, it is the lifeblood that helps us continue to do Saturday to Sunday. Everything we get just goes right back in for server costs and subscription fees to get access to everything we need to bring you the coverage that we do here at Saturday to Sunday. So, on behalf of our sound tech engineer, David Nakano, and myself, thank you for joining us, and we look forward next time taking you from Saturday to Sunday.